Have you ever stopped to think about why a man really remains faithful? Most people believe that it has to do with love or respect, or even fear of losing their partner. But the truth is that, in the male mind, fidelity has much deeper roots, and is often much more shocking than it appears on the surface. And that's exactly what I'm going to reveal to you today. Get ready, because what you're about to hear may completely change the way you see a man's mind. The big question is, a man may seem faithful for many different reasons, but deep down there are only 3 simple reasons that truly keep him in a relationship. 3 reasons he will never admit out loud, but which are there inside him, guiding every decision. And when you understand what those 3 reasons are, everything becomes clear. You start to notice the signs. You can tell the difference between when a man is with you because he wants to be, or when he's just there for convenience. What's more, you can see what really makes a relationship last, without any illusions. Now, before we get into these 3 reasons, I need to prepare you, because nothing I'm going to say here is obvious. On the contrary, many of these points may even sound harsh, uncomfortable, even cruel. But it is precisely this honesty that will give you clarity. After all, what's the point of living in the dark, believing in an illusion, if what really drives a man's mind is much more direct and realistic than soap operas, movies, and even the advice of friends make it seem? Just imagine, you're in a relationship, you believe you're safe, that the man by your side is 100% loyal because he loves you, because he values every detail about you. But in reality, inside him, the reasons that hold this fidelity are very different from what you imagine. He won't tell you, he won't admit it, but sooner or later, his actions reveal the truth, and that's why this video is so important. I want you to see beyond the words. I want you to understand the silent logic that guides male behavior. In the next few minutes, we're going to dive into the mind of a faithful man and unravel the 3 reasons that make him stay. Reasons that may be simple, but carry enormous weight. Reasons that, when ignored, end up destroying entire relationships, even when everything seemed fine. And here's a warning. Don't expect sweet answers, full of fairy tale romance. What I'm going to reveal is raw, direct, and psychological, but that's precisely why it's transformative. If you've suffered in relationships, if you've been cheated on, or if you live with that constant doubt, does he really love me? Or is he just with me for another reason? Then you need to stay until the end of this video, because I'm going to give you, step by step, each of the 3 reasons, and you'll have clarity like never before. What's more, it doesn't matter if you're in a new relationship or a long-term marriage. These reasons are always present. They manifest themselves in different ways, but they are there. When you understand this, you can even predict behaviors and prepare yourself to avoid future pain. So, sit back in your chair, because from now on, we're going to uncover together the secrets that every faithful man keeps inside. And I promise, at the end of this video, you won't look at men the same way you did before. Before revealing the 3 reasons that keep a man faithful, we need to understand something fundamental. The male mind works differently from the female mind when it comes to commitment. While many women associate fidelity directly with love, care, and affection, men generally have a more practical, quieter, and often more instinctive logic. This does not mean that they do not love or value. It just means that the internal paths that lead a man to remain faithful follow a different map. And if you don't know that map, it's very easy to get lost in illusions. For most men, fidelity is not just a romantic choice. It is a result, a reflection of 3 central factors that, when present, keep him firmly in a relationship. But when they are absent, even the most passionate man can begin to feel unstable, empty, or tempted to seek something outside the relationship. And here is the first key you need to keep in mind. A faithful man is not faithful just because he loves. He is faithful because there is a set of psychological and emotional reasons that underpin that loyalty. Now think with me. How many times have you heard stories of men who seemed completely in love and suddenly cheated on or abandoned their partners? This happens because even though there was love, one of the invisible foundations that sustained fidelity was missing. In other words, feelings alone do not hold anyone back. And this is where the big difference lies. Women often put love at the center of everything. If they love, they stay. If they don't love, they leave. Men, on the other hand, can love and still walk away, lose themselves, or even cheat. This sounds harsh, but it's a reality that needs to be faced. The male mind is closely connected to 2 aspects: instinct and logic. Instinct pushes men outward, to explore, conquer, and experience new things. Logic, on the other hand, keeps them inside, reminding them of what they can gain and what they can lose. It is in this clash between instinct and logic that fidelity is defined. If a man remains faithful, it is because within this balance there are invisible forces stronger than temptation, forces that he himself often does not understand or cannot explain. He simply acts according to them. And that is why so many women get frustrated when they try to talk openly about fidelity. They ask, "Would you be capable of cheating on me?" And he replies, "Of course not. I would never do that." But in practice, his actions don't always match his words. Not because he is a liar by nature, but because he himself doesn't understand the gears that turn inside his own mind. Now, I want you to imagine fidelity as a house. Love can be the roof, beautiful, apparent, visible to all. But what really supports this house are the columns. Without the pillars, the roof collapses even if it looks perfect. And these pillars are exactly the 3 reasons I'm going to reveal to you later. When the 3 pillars are firm, the man stands tall, faithful, present. But when one of them cracks, the whole balance of the relationship begins to shake. Have you ever seen seemingly solid relationships suddenly fall apart? It's because, silently, one of those pillars was weakened, and no one noticed in time. That's why it's so important to understand male psychology before diving into the reasons themselves. Because when you understand that fidelity doesn't depend only on feelings, but on psychological structures, you start to observe the signs around you much more carefully. And here's a hard but necessary truth. A man can love you and still fail to be faithful. But if the 3 reasons I'm about to reveal are alive within him, fidelity becomes almost natural, almost inevitable. It's as if his mind finds a logical and emotional way to stay with the same person, without needing to make a forced effort. Deep down, fidelity is not just about promises, alliances, or vows. It's about what a man feels he gains by being with you and what he fears losing if he isn't. It's about how much peace, pride, and security his mind finds within the relationship. And now that you understand this psychological landscape, you're ready to learn what those 3 reasons are. Simple reasons, but so powerful that they become the basis of male fidelity. In the next section, we will begin to unravel each of them, with real examples, clear explanations, and details that will open your eyes in a way that may never have happened before. It's time to open the first column that supports a man's fidelity, and I need you to understand, this reason has nothing to do with vows of eternal love or romantic movie lines. In fact, it's something much more direct, almost instinctive. The first reason a man remains faithful is when he feels proud of the woman by his side. It may seem simple, but it's not. A faithful man is not only bound by the love he feels, but by the quiet pride of being able to say to himself, "This is the woman I'm with." This pride doesn't even need to be shown in public. It often happens inside his mind, in ordinary moments, in the small details of everyday life. When he looks at you and feels that being by your side increases his value, his fidelity is strengthened. Now pay attention. This pride is not only linked to physical beauty, although that also has its importance. It is linked to the whole package, the way you carry yourself, how you speak, how you react to life. A faithful man is one who feels lucky to be with someone he admires. And here's the shocking part. When that pride disappears, the risk of infidelity increases dramatically. A man may even love, he may even like, he may even get used to it. But if he no longer feels pride, if he feels that the relationship no longer represents him, his mind begins to open up loopholes. And these cracks are dangerous. Perhaps you have seen cases like this. Men who had long, stable relationships but who suddenly became involved with someone else who, in the eyes of others, seemed less. And people ask, how could he leave everything for her? The answer is precisely this. That new person brought back a sense of pride that he no longer found. Not pride in the arrogant sense, but pride in the sense of feeling empowered, validated, valued. That's why so many men say things like, "She inspires me to be better," or, "With her, I feel like I can conquer the world." These phrases may sound beautiful, but they reveal a very serious psychological point. A man remains faithful when he feels that, alongside his partner, he grows. He doesn't shrink. He doesn't diminish. He expands. And that's where the secret lies. When the relationship becomes a burden, when instead of pride he begins to feel shame, fidelity wavers. It doesn't have to be public shame, just internal. All he has to do is look at his life and think, is this really what I want to carry with me? This silent thought is like a crack in the first column of a house. If left unattended, it will expand until the entire structure collapses. But when pride is strong, fidelity becomes natural. Men don't need to fight temptations. They simply don't want anything else, because they feel they already have something rare and valuable. They look at their partner and feel that by her side, they have a life worth defending. Now pay attention. This doesn't mean that women need to be perfect or live up to some unattainable standard. Male pride is not born solely from appearance, but from a combination of factors. It may be emotional strength, intelligence, the way she supports him, or even the way she maintains her identity without losing herself in the relationship. All of this feeds the sense of admiration that sustains fidelity. And here's a truth that may hurt. When a man stops admiring his partner, he may stay with her out of habit, fear of losing stability, or even dependence. But fidelity begins to weaken. He may not physically cheat, but his mind begins to wander. And in many cases, betrayal begins precisely in the imagination, in thoughts. On the other hand, when pride is alive, a man becomes a natural guardian of the relationship. He doesn't just think about himself, but about the value of being with someone he admires. And this creates a powerful cycle. The more pride he feels, the more faithful he remains. The more faithful he remains, the more pride he has in his own choice. So keep this first reason in mind. A faithful man only stays when he feels pride in the woman by his side. This pride is the first invisible pillar that sustains fidelity. Without it, the house begins to crack. With it, the relationship gains strength to withstand time and temptations. In the next section, we will dive into the second reason, which is just as strong as this one, but touches on a different aspect of the male mind. An aspect connected not to pride, but to what he feels he could never lose. And when you understand this second pillar, you will see how it connects to the first, creating an almost unbreakable foundation for fidelity. We've already talked about the first reason, the pride a man feels in his partner, but fidelity is not based on that alone. There is a second pillar, equally powerful, that keeps a man faithful within a relationship, and that reason is the real fear of losing what is irreplaceable to him. It may sound strange to talk about fear as a basis for fidelity, but that is exactly what happens in the male mind. A man remains faithful when he understands deep down that nothing outside the relationship can offer the same value that he already has at his side. This fear is not cowardice. It is an instinct for self-preservation. It is the awareness that if he makes a mistake, he will jeopardize something he will not find again. Now, pay attention. This irreplaceable something does not have to be just you as a person, but everything that comes with the relationship. It could be the emotional support you offer, the feeling of stability, the home you have built, the children, the shared dreams, or even the peace he feels when he is with you. It's as if, in his mind, there is a scale. On one side, temptation. On the other, everything he would lose if he failed. And when the weight of what he already has is much greater, fidelity becomes a natural choice. This second reason is responsible for holding back men who, even in moments of weakness, think twice before making a mistake. They may even be provoked, tested, tempted, but when it comes time to act, their mind triggers an alert. Is it worth losing everything for a moment of impulse? And this alert, when strong, is what keeps loyalty firm. But here comes the shocking part. When a man sees nothing truly valuable to lose, fidelity weakens. If he doesn't feel that the relationship adds something, that there is something unique and special, then the psychological break disappears. This is where many fall, because even though they love, they don't see the consequences of a mistake as something serious. And when the fear of loss is small, the temptation becomes too great. Consider an example. A married man with a family, children, and a life built alongside his partner. If he sees all of this as essential, he holds on tightly. But if the idea arises within him that none of this is so valuable, that he could start over at any time, the risk increases. It is not external reality that matters, but how he internally perceives the value of what he has. And that is precisely why many men, when they are in relationships where they do not feel truly connected, end up taking risks. They do not see great losses, just a life that could be changed. That is the danger of a lack of depth. On the other hand, when the fear of loss is great, fidelity becomes a wall. The man looks at his partner, at the life he has built, and feels that any slip would be a personal tragedy. This thought does not bind him out of obligation, but out of wisdom. He understands that a mistake would destroy something that cannot be easily rebuilt. And here is the connection between the first and second reasons. Pride makes him stay because he admires and values the person by his side. The fear of losing strengthens this bond because he recognizes the unique importance of this relationship in his life. It is as if he silently says to himself, "There is no one who can take her place. There is nothing out there that is worth more than what I already have." This is the psychological point that differentiates firm fidelity from fragile fidelity. When the fear of losing is real, a man does not need external surveillance, demands, or mistrust. He watches over himself because he knows how much he would have to lose. And this kind of awareness creates a much more solid fidelity than any promise spoken in words. But it is important to understand something. This fear cannot arise from threats, blackmail, or demands. It needs to arise naturally from the man's perception of the value of the relationship. When he sees, on his own, that he is in something rare and precious, the instinct for self-preservation does all the work. When this fear is imposed from outside, through control or pressure, the effect is the opposite. He feels suffocated and starts looking for a way out. Therefore, the secret is not to force a man to be afraid of losing you, but to live in such a way that he realizes for himself that losing you would be one of the worst things that could happen in his life. Keep this in mind. A faithful man only stays when he feels he has something to lose that can never be replaced. This is the second reason, the second invisible pillar that supports male fidelity. In the next section, we will talk about the third reason, perhaps the most intimate of all, because it is not only connected to pride or fear of loss, but to the emotional heart of a man, something that, when present, transforms fidelity into an almost natural reflex. We have already talked about two pillars that support a man's fidelity, the pride of being with his partner and the fear of losing something irreplaceable. But there is still the third reason, perhaps the most intimate and silent of all. The third reason why a man remains faithful is when he finds emotional peace within the relationship. It may seem simple, but think about it. The male world is full of pressures. Pressure to win, to conquer, to provide, to not show weakness. Amidst all this, what weighs most heavily on a man's mind is not only what he shows on the outside, but what he feels on the inside. And that's where this third reason comes in. A man remains faithful when he realizes that, alongside his partner, he can be himself, when he doesn't have to wear masks, when he doesn't have to pretend, when he feels he can rest emotionally. This feeling of peace becomes so valuable that fidelity becomes almost a natural consequence. You see, a man may be proud of his partner. He may be afraid of losing everything he has built. But if there is no peace within the relationship, sooner or later he will begin to lose himself. And this lack of peace does not just mean constant fighting. It means the absence of emotional tranquility. It means feeling that instead of growing stronger in the relationship, he lives in a state of alertness, tension, or pressure. Now here's the revealing part. Many men who cheat do so not because of a lack of love, but because of a lack of peace. They get involved with someone else because, in some way, that person offers a refuge, even if temporary, from the weight they feel in their official relationship. This does not justify it, but it explains the internal logic that drives their minds. When a man finds peace with his partner, he does not feel the need to seek anything outside the relationship. This peace manifests itself in various ways: in comfortable silence, in non-judgmental emotional support, in the feeling that he does not have to prove anything all the time. It is as if the relationship becomes a place of rest for the soul, a space where he does not have to fight to be accepted. And here is the detail that many people do not realize. Emotional peace is not about never arguing, but about knowing that, even in arguments, there is respect. It is not about never making mistakes, but about knowing that mistakes can be dealt with maturely. It's not about living a fairy tale, but knowing that even in storms, there is shelter. This peace is what keeps many men faithful even in situations of great temptation, because in his mind, no adventure is worth putting at risk the only place where he truly feels whole. He may have opportunities, he may be tempted, but inside him echoes the certainty, I will not risk losing the only person in front of whom I can be myself. Now, notice the connection between the three reasons. Pride makes a man stay because he admires his partner. Fear of loss makes him stay because he recognizes the value of what he already has. Emotional peace makes him stay because he feels he has found the rarest space of all, peace of mind. When these three pillars are firm, fidelity becomes almost inevitable. But when one of them breaks, the relationship runs silent risks. A man may even remain there, physically present, but his mind already begins to wander, and that is why so many relationships become fragile even without obvious signs of betrayal. So, keep this third reason in mind. A faithful man only stays when he finds emotional peace alongside the woman he has chosen. This peace is invisible to the world, but it is indispensable to the male mind. Without it, fidelity becomes just an obligation. With it, fidelity becomes a daily, almost natural choice. And in the next section, we'll put all these pieces together, pride, fear of loss, and emotional peace, to understand how they connect in practice and how you can identify whether these pillars are truly solid in your relationship. Because only then will you have absolute clarity about the fidelity that lives beside you. Now that you know the three reasons that make a man remain faithful, pride, fear of loss, and emotional peace, it's time to connect these pieces, because separately, they are already strong. But when they come together, they create an almost unshakable structure. Think again about that image of the house I shared before. Each reason is a column. If one of them cracks, the house may still stand, but it is already vulnerable. Now, when all three are firm, nothing can bring it down. This is the secret of male fidelity. It is not a single factor, but the union of three invisible pillars that support a man's behavior. And that is why so many relationships suddenly fall apart. On the outside, everything seemed fine, but silently, one of those pillars had been weakened for a long time. Perhaps pride no longer existed. Perhaps the fear of losing had diminished, or perhaps emotional peace had disappeared. And when one pillar falls, the others begin to be tested until all balance is lost. Now, I want you to reflect. In which of these three pillars do you feel your relationship is most stable? And in which of them do you feel there is fragility? This answer is important because it reveals exactly where you need to focus your attention. Let's look at some practical signs. Pride. If he constantly introduces you with joy, if he talks about you with admiration, if he shows that he feels better for being with you, that pillar is strong. But if he avoids including you, if he seems ashamed, if he no longer shows pride, then something is breaking. Fear of loss. If he values what you have together, if he shows care, if he avoids unnecessary risks because he doesn't want to jeopardize the relationship, this pillar is strong. But if he acts as if he could start over at any moment, as if nothing were really essential, this pillar is weakened. Emotional peace. If he finds support, tranquility, and space to be himself in you, fidelity is protected. But if the relationship has become nothing but demands, criticism, and burden, peace disappears, and with it, the security of fidelity. Notice how each pillar connects to the other. Pride feeds the fear of loss, because no one wants to lose what they admire. The fear of loss strengthens the search for peace, because you only take care of what is valuable, and peace feeds pride, because when there is harmony, he feels even more admiration for being with you. It's a powerful cycle, but one that needs constant attention. And here's the final and most important point. A man's fidelity is not only won at the beginning, but reaffirmed every day. It's not enough to believe that he is faithful because he loves you, because he said he would never cheat, or because he put a ring on your finger. What really keeps a man in a relationship is the constant presence of these three reasons. That's why you need to stop believing in cliches and start observing attitudes. More than hearing, "I love you," notice if he shows pride. More than trusting promises, notice if he really fears losing what you have. More than waiting for declarations, notice if he finds emotional peace by your side. And if, after hearing all this, you realize that one of these pillars is fragile, don't despair. This is an opportunity. After all, we can only fix what we can see. The important thing is not to close your eyes, not to live on illusions, but to seek the clarity that transforms. Now, imagine for a moment what it would be like to live in a relationship where all three pillars are strong. A man who feels proud every day to be with you, who carries a real fear of losing you because he knows the unique value of the relationship, and who finds emotional peace by your side, as if the relationship were the safest refuge in the world. This is the scenario where fidelity becomes natural, without the need for demands, threats, or mistrust. And that is exactly what differentiates a fragile relationship from a solid one. So keep this final summary in mind. He only remains faithful if he feels proud of you. He only remains faithful if he has a real fear of losing what you have. He only remains faithful if he finds emotional peace by your side. These 3 reasons are simple, but shocking. They reveal what really goes on in a man's mind. And now you no longer have to live in doubt, because you know exactly what signs to look for. So the next time you look at your relationship, don't just ask if he loves you. Ask, is he proud of me? Would he be genuinely afraid of losing me? Does he find emotional peace by my side? If the answer is yes to all 3 questions, you have solid fidelity. If the answer is no to any of them, it's time to pay attention and take action. In the end, fidelity is not an unattainable mystery. It is simply the sum of 3 reasons that, when understood, provide clarity and power to those who want to live in a true relationship. And now I want to know, looking at what you heard today, which of these 3 reasons do you think weighs most heavily in your relationship? Leave your answer in the comments, because I'll be reading each one. And if this video opened your eyes, share it with someone who also needs to understand the psychology of the male mind. Because in the end, every faithful man stays for 3 simple reasons, and now you know them all.